You know, a language isn't just a way to talk. If you look at it the right way, it's actually a puzzle. A really complex code with its own hidden logic, just waiting for someone to come along and crack it. And that's exactly what we're going to do today.
So where do you even begin? I mean, how do you solve a puzzle when you don't even know the rules? It's kind of like being a detective showing up to a brand new crime scene. You've got all these clues scattered around, but you have no idea how they all fit together. You got to start small, looking for the most basic patterns.
Our case file for this explainer is the Rabha language. We're going to use our source material as our evidence, piecing together the clues to figure out its fundamental grammar.
Okay, so with any code, the first step is always to find the most basic building blocks. For a language, that means hunting for the smallest possible piece that actually carries some kind of meaning.
And that little building block has a name. It's called a morpheme. Now, this isn't always a full word. It could be a prefix or a suffix or just a root. Think of them like a single Lego brick of meaning. If you try to break it down any more than that, you just get meaningless sounds.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is the core tool our source material gives us to work with. You can see it right there in the text, a minimal, meaningful part. Once we can spot these, we can start to see how entire words get built from the ground up.
All right, now that we have our main tool, our linguistic magnifying glass, let's put it to the test. We're going to take our first piece of evidence, a complete sentence in Rabha, and see if we can take it apart piece by piece.
So here it is. At first glance, it might just look like a string of unfamiliar sounds. But trust me, hidden inside are all the individual morphemes that are going to tell us the whole story.
And boom, look at this breakdown. All of a sudden, the mystery starts to disappear. Ube is who, ango is me, brok means severely, and kuk is the verb to beat. But here's the really cool part. That little ending, ngata, it's not a word by itself, but it's a super important morpheme. It's the clue that tells us this all happened in the past. See? The code is already starting to make sense.
Okay, so we've got the basics down. Let's level up and look at a slightly more complex case. This is where we go from just identifying the pieces to really understanding the more subtle rules of how they all interact with each other.
Our second sentence here introduces some new challenges. We've got a proper name, Loki, a couple of new words, but there are also some really interesting grammatical clues buried in here.
Whoa, okay, now this is a fascinating clue. Did you notice the past tense marker here is enta, not ngata, like we saw before? So what gives? Well, our source tells us they actually mean the exact same thing. The difference comes down to the final sound of the verb it's attached to. It's this subtle little rule of rhythm and sound that's built right into the language. How cool is that?
And we've just found another secret rule. Remember in our first sentence, ungo was marked as the object, me? Well here, taka, which means money, is also an object, but it doesn't have that marker. The source explains that this is because if the context makes it super obvious what the object is, you can just drop the marker. It's like a little efficiency shortcut built right into the grammar.
So, we've been looking really closely at the tiny pieces, but let's take a step back for a second. Looking at the big picture, have you started to notice a consistent pattern in the order of the words themselves? Because that pattern you're probably sensing, well, that's the master blueprint. It's the key to building almost any sentence in Rabha. Let's lay it out.
And there it is. The master blueprint is subject, object, verb, or SOV. This is the fundamental structure we've been seeing this whole time without even naming it. The person doing the action comes first, then the thing that's being acted on, and then the verb, the action itself, comes right at the very end.
And this comparison just makes it so clear how different that is from English, right? In English, we say, Loki gave me money. That's subject, verb, object, or SVO. But if you were to translate the Rabha sentence structure word for word, it would sound like Loki, me, money, gave. The verb is like the grand finale at the end of the sentence.
So what does all this show us? It shows that just by following the clues, from the tiniest little morpheme all the way up to the overall sentence structure, we've actually been able to sketch out the basic rules of a whole new language system.
So let's just quickly recap our detective work. We started by identifying the morphemes, those smallest bits of meaning. Then we analyzed the suffixes, like those tricky past tense markers. From there, we zoomed out to observe the word order and found that core SOV pattern. And finally, we uncovered all those cool nuances, like the optional object marker. It's a really powerful logical process.
And really, in the end, that's what studying any language is all about. It's not about memorizing a bunch of dry rules. It's about discovery. As our source material puts it so perfectly, it's an invitation to an exciting adventure.
It just makes you wonder, right? What other hidden structures and elegant rules are just waiting to be decoded in the thousands of languages all across the world?